Hi, accorda tá fáilte ag an session Eolais seo I Scoilbhliain na chathair don Bl.4 cún. You're very welcome to our information session this evening, giving you information on next year's 2025-2026 transition year. So we do this session always around this time of year, I suppose, to give parents, agus an adulti, kind of réabhólas, give them kind of some information about next year's course, what's involved, and I suppose what has to be done at this stage of the year. So look, tá lá áling an way. It's a lovely day out. So be my topic lower, we'll try and get through everything in the next 30 minutes. And what I question with, you can see up top, there's a Q&A there. If you click on that, you can put in question on chin, and I'll be looking at the question, and I can then do myself and Kieran is Scoilbhliain the question raggart. Could I just ask, could anybody put a thumbs up there in either the chat or the Q&A, just akin to which have now made a clutch tongue. So somebody can just go in there and put a thumbs up, or just if you could just say, yes, I can hear you loud and clear, we'll get started then, just to make sure that everybody is with us in sound and go with pressure. So just so somebody there can just very quickly in the chat or the Q&A, just put a thumbs up and chin, and we'll know that we'll got to in. And we'll get started there. So just find a second one and chin. And be mid regla. Yeah.
Thumbs up, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. One more thumbs up and chin, I think, Kieran, yeah.
Jeanette.
Yeah. Okay. So mar dúirt mé accorda to fáilte romhaibh. We'll keep this as quick as we can. I'm sure go hauling outside. It's a lovely day, and I just hope you have the laptop and you're sitting outside on the deck and bantan of us on that, I'm sure. The good news is we have the Pope in Uruguay. We have a Pope in the last hour, I just heard, so I need to watch the news later on and learn more. And second big thing is that we're here, I suppose, for the next 30 minutes to give you all the information that we can at this stage. And obviously, if we don't have the answers, we will get back to you over the next few days to help out. Okay, so we are making a recording of this. It will be available on the school website after tonight, so you can look over this again if you want. Next, I'd just like to make a quick reference to our third year students, who are hopefully some are online if they're not studying or not taking a break. But I suppose to them, a few things. The failure for the third year junior cert certificate exams, that is up on the school website. If you go to the school website, at the very top, under one of the tabs called Failure Calendar, you will see the third year exams. 6th year exams are there as well. It will give you an outline of the whole month, starting on Wednesday the 4th, the first Wednesday the 4th of June, Shintus Lena Scruda and Tassa Sociary. So please look at that failure and you can get a failure of all the exams. These are state exams, just an adult district. They will have an assembly with us next week where we'll go through what is required of them. And I suppose being a state exam, it's a bit more serious in that there will be a supervisor, not from the school, a teacher from somewhere else, supervising exams, and I suppose they take it quite serious. So it's very important that students are prepared, have everything with them, and where there's a problem, they put up their hand and they ask the supervisor a question, and that's how it works. We will be going through all that with them next week on a make sure reg so that they'll be ready for the exams. So Shin na príomhthí sin, and just I suppose don adulti bemig rollo mehain, but gunari live as gunari le na tishmoring. Best look to the parents as well, because they do know with third years and 6th years, it can be a stressful environment, but we will get through this together, you know, and just all we can ask of them is to do their best, and that's it, and we move on. Okay, so we're here tonight to talk about next year's transition year. And Scoilbhliain don Bl.4 is course úr nua. It's a brand new course that has been brought in this year. Slightly rushed, to be honest. Myself and Kieran have been working on this for the last while and just trying to, I suppose, get our head around what are the changes. And we are still, I suppose, learning and still will be making changes between now and September to this course. So hopefully tonight we'll be able to give you a good taste of the course. The 4 big things, I suppose, is that it's divided into 4 columns or 4 different areas. The first one is fast parsanta, so that's personal growth. So we're talking there about doing different courses. It could be first aid course, it could be a barista course, it could be a school musical, going on a school trip. They're just back from Killary. The idea of staying away from home and, you know, putting yourself outside the comfort zone, doing different obstacles. This will be part of the FÁS Páirceanta that we do already, but it will become, I suppose, under this heading of FÁS Páirceanta. Then we have, the next thing would be a bheith ide fólamór, being a learner. So what they mean by this is, well, that's the normal school curriculum. So in TY, students will be doing Irish, English, maths, and their language. These are the normal Leaving Cert subjects that they will be doing, and we'll be starting those in fourth year with the same teacher for the whole year. On top of that, they'll have subject tasters and special guests coming in. And that is, I suppose, being a learner and learning about these subjects, and I suppose starting to, in some ways, what they're doing for the Leaving Cert. The third thing is Ran Fartiuk Civilta agus Pobal. So this is civic engagement. Now, this is a new area that we have to incorporate into our course. And this is where the students, separate to work experience, will go out into the community and will help in any way they can. That could be with gardening in the local area. If there's any centre where maybe there's people there that we could go in and support them, maybe with IT skills, where we might bring local people in the area into the school to do computer courses run by the students. This is all part of the civic engagement, and I'll be coming back to that in a second. And the final part that TY is broken into next year is on Taide Garma, and that is our career exploration. So again, that's very much part of what Kieran will be going through in a few minutes on the job, the TY work experience, and also our career guidance teacher, Sharon, will be doing a lot on the CV and interview techniques as well. So that's where we're going tonight. Look, all we're going to do over the next 25 minutes is give you a taster of what we want to cover in this course, let you know what you need to do between now, I suppose, in summertime, and then if we have any questions at the end, Pragromin question. And what we always do then in September, at the end of September, we will have a second session once the students are a month into the course, just to give, I suppose, an up-to-date kind of brief of what the students are doing, what they will be doing, and we'll all be tuned in and all on the same page. And that's what we want to do. Okay, so I suppose ag dul raig beg Kieran a kaint if Tomlin initial second, agus chuck misha a rash kuiv I gown cúpla and chin. So Kieran Lacuna day to Susan and Scoilbhliain this year up there, I think, yep. And hopefully bug him in a Shlán and a raig, and agus is fed lots of two occur let a piece of kaint.
Okay, Gurmila Magadon. Yeah, so Mardur Joan is Misha Cord the Horde Hijrina. So as Owen said, I'm the transition year coordinator. So it's my job to organise the year, to plan the programme, to work with students, with parents, with teachers, to try and get the most out of the year. And in this evening's talk, I suppose, first of all, the importance is to explain the difference in transition year as compared to other years in the school. We'll then look at some of the practical information, how things are actually going to work through the year. And finally, there's a couple of small things that you can start looking at now that will have your son or daughter well prepared for when they get back to school in late August, later after the long summer, hopefully. Yeah. So as Owen said, there is a new TY statement or program being put out there. Now, thankfully, the school has been developing the transition year program for a number of years, and an awful lot of what we already do fits into it. I suppose the major difference is that it's going to be strengthening some of the bonds. So things like the civic and community engagement that we make, we've already got a lot of links with the locality, but that they strengthen and become a core part of the curriculum. Yeah, in relation to the other parts, personal growth, that's always been, I suppose, one of the most enjoyable parts of my role is that it is very different to other years. The main thing is that, I suppose, moving, the academic is still an important part of it, obviously, but it's more about an all-round holistic approach to your son and daughter's development, that they get a chance to do things that they wouldn't get the opportunity of doing otherwise. We fill the program, I suppose, when I'm talking about different activities as the talk goes on, nothing's really set in stone. We will be canvassing the students at the end of the year, parents at the end of the year, see what worked well, see what didn't work so well, and maybe why, and either replace those things or change those things accordingly, so that the program's always evolving. Some of the things you're going to see on the screen we may not have done this year, but we might be bringing back in next year depending on how certain things go. We try to have it as dynamic as possible, a program. There are a number of advantages, as you see here. There's, I suppose, the most obvious one in my head is the fact that your son or daughter will be spending another year in school. Now, I don't know about you, but when I left school, I was 17 going to college. And because of that, and I had no experience or work experience or being anywhere really outside of the school bubble. And that meant that I was making a very naive choice when it came to CAO choices and points and things like that. I basically pitched for a course that was around the points I thought I was going to get. And I ended up spending a year in college doing environmental science, which, as you probably know by now, I'm far from at the moment. But it was basically because I never had any exposure to what it actually was. I just read a little leaflet, it looked like fun, but I didn't really understand what the daily life of somebody working in a lab would be. And after a year, I realized it wasn't for me. I took a gap year. That allowed me exposure to the big wide world. I started working, things like that, and I was able then to make a far more educated decision on where my future lay. So as you can see from the slide here, there are the students who do 2I, they get higher points. A lot of them go on to higher education. The higher proportion go on to higher education. But a lot of it, again, I suppose it's because they have a little bit longer with us and they get exposure to all these different areas that allow them then to explore areas of interest. When it comes to the work experience module, I'll be talking about that shortly. That really is a very, 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 very valuable part of the program. It really gives students a chance to figure out what they may be interested in going towards, or just importantly what they're not suited for. That can very often be just as important. The other advantage that very often comes from transition year is they're going to be doing 3 different placements through the year. They'll get an opportunity from that very often to get things like summer jobs, not to be leaning on mum and dad quite as much for pocket money and so on. An awful lot of our students this year have part-time work now organised for the summer based on the work experience that they've done during the year. In relation to the programme, the subjects, as Owen mentioned earlier, there are sort of the Creover or the Over Oíche the Bl.4 gan stuppa. So we have a number of subjects like Scoilbhliain and their foreign language. They're going to be doing those all year. They'll be in the same class group all year. But we do have all of these other taster subjects. And as you see, those 4A, 4B, 4C and 4D, they relate to class groups. So what's going to happen on the first day that your son or daughter come to school, they're going to be given a timetable. And that timetable will, they're all across the 4 class groups, all those timetables are different. And they're going to be getting 8-week tasters in all the subjects that are available for the Leaving Cert. And we're going to rotate the students every 8 weeks. And that means at the end of those rotations, it'll be Easter of 2026. And then at that point, your son or daughter will have tasted all the subjects that are available for the Leaving Cert. At that point, like I said, they'll then make their decision, their choices on what subjects they'd like to study for their Leaving Cert. But it's from a far better position than if they didn't have that exposure, if they were basing their decisions on hearsay and whatever else. So it's an important part of the curriculum. But like I said, it's to inform the students on all the possibilities open to them for the Leaving Cert and that they make the right decisions moving forward.
I might just turn a shock and chin, Kieran.
Sure.
Just talking about the Creover, the core subjects. These are subjects that students will be carrying through to the Leaving Cert. So it is very important that parents and guardians understand that these subjects, the Irish, English, Maths, the French, and the Spanish, are occurring every day of their timetable. Students tend to get a habit in TY. They're great, but they'll say, "Oh, we don't have many classes today, or we don't have this subject on today." Just for you, for the record, Irish, English, Maths, French and Spanish will be on their timetable on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday of every week of the year. That's a guaranteed core subject, which will continue on. It's fourth year. It's the start of the Leaving Cert course. We don't cover the Leaving Cert course in fourth year, but we do cover elements of it that makes life easier. And there's a huge connection, and I'll be talking later on, between being in class, being present in front of the teacher, and academic attainment in fifth and sixth year. So Chuck Marashin, but just very important that parents know classes go on as normal every day. And then, as Kieran says, you have to Bl.4 over Chuck to Shock, as already DASA, and there's different developmental subjects that we're trying to develop as well. Okay, come on, Kieran.
Come on. Yeah, so I suppose on the things that the students are probably looking forward to already, we do run, we have a lot of different extracurricular activities in the year. Everything that we do, everything that we run has a purpose behind it. It's at the beginning of the year, there'll be a few activities because the class groups, I suppose, one of the biggest changes that's going to happen for your son or daughter when they come in at the end of August is they're going to be put into a new class group. This happens every year. A lot of them initially they might be kicked back. I'm sure that they're quite comfortable where they are, all their friends are in the class and so on. But I suppose when they come to, at the same time that they're going to be coming back, we're going to have a load of first years arriving in the door. And they're also going to be put into new class groups. They're not going to be in the same class group that they were in Scoilbhliain or wherever else they were. So the reason that we do this, first of all, is that it's going to be part of their lives moving forward. When they leave the school, they're going to be going into university, or they're going to go into third level, or they're going to start work or an apprenticeship, whatever it might be. They're not going to get a say on who is sitting beside them in a lecture hall or wherever else they might be. So they need to develop that skill of being able to make friends, even friends, or new friends, certainly. So at the beginning of fourth year, like I said, they're going to be entering a new class group. And at the beginning of the year, we'll be running a number of activities to try and get those class groups to gel, just like icebreakers and things like that. It'll be a couple of days outside of the school where they'll be doing different activities. We're all the time looking at the activities that we're doing. We all the time question, look, where's the value of this? Is this valuable, or is this, like, where is the educational value? Where is the holistic value, I suppose, in it? So the program does change quite a lot. Some of the activities will be coming up on one of the slides shortly enough, but I suppose it's about getting a balance. We want them to be going out of the school and enjoying activities. At the same time, we don't want them to be gone all the time either. We will have a musical again this year. That will be taking up quite a bit of the time in the first few months of the new school year. So while all that practice is going on, we won't have a huge amount of activities planned. But then following the musicals, they're going to be coming sort of fairly quick and regularly. And like I said, we're always looking at, we open it up to all the departments in school. If they have ideas of trips or whatever it might be with educational value that would expose your son or daughter to another way of thinking or another whatever it might be, we're very open to that sort of stuff. There are also a number of TY specific programs that will be available to your son and daughter in the year. The RCSI, the Royal College of Surgeons in Dublin, when I started in this role many years ago, they used to have a TY program which would involve a lottery around the country. They'd invite 30 students from all the different schools in the country up to Dublin, and you'd go to the RCSI for 5 days, and you'd see surgeries happening and all this sort of stuff. It was fantastic, but again, it was like hen's teeth. It was very, very difficult to get students on that. With COVID, they moved all that online, and an awful lot of these different organizations did the same thing around COVID time. And thankfully, a number of them have maintained those online courses. So during the year, there will be the RCSI Mini Med program. There's a mini physio program. There's a mini pharmacy program. Now, the way that we run that is, if we'll be asking parents and students if they have an interest in that area, that they'll express their interest to us, and then we will organise that there'll be a space in the school. It's all online. They'll be sitting in a room with their notepads. There'll be people lecturing, and it's very well put together. But that will be available to your son or daughter. The Bar of Ireland also do a law program, and again, if your son or daughter are interested in that area, they can do that. Steps Ireland, if your son or daughter is interested in engineering, they can sign up on that. Very often that means that they'll go into NUIG or ATU or one of those different places for 2 or 3 days into their engineering departments. Very, very good programs. The Garda Síochána, now they have had a 2I program. It's a bit hit and miss though. They've only done it once since after COVID. Generally it was a 2-dayer where they'd have a day in the court and a day out at one of the Gardaí headquarters. Whether or not that's going to happen next year is up to the Gardaí basically, but if it is, obviously we'll be making that available to your son and daughter as well. And the Scoilbhliain and the army, they actually have a program also where students, and this year I think about 8 of our students went out for a week to the barracks around Moore and saw the workings of the place, got a very good grounding in what it's like to be in the army. A number of our students afterwards expressed a huge interest in actually pursuing that in the future. Yeah, so I suppose another huge part of the transition year, like I mentioned earlier, is Tahi Ibra, so work experience. So Jinnisha 3 block Irina Blina, they do 3 blocks of work experience through the year. It happens every Wednesday. Now we're back to school nice and early this year, and the first date that they'll be starting their work experience will be Wednesday the 27th of August. Now the student and the parents, it's up to them to find that placement. You know, it can seem daunting to students, but it's really not that hard. In my time in this role, like I said, pretty much every business I've ever heard of in Galway, they have taken students in some capacity. Some of them might not take them if it's every Wednesday, but an awful lot of businesses are very, very open to this. They actually have a transition year program. While your son or daughter are doing a work experience, they're fully covered by the insurance of the school. So if something was to happen in place of work, and we have an indemnity forms and so on that we share with parents and students, so they can give that to the business. It makes the whole thing very, very straightforward. But it is important, I suppose, to get thinking about that. Some parents will ask, what about block weeks? Instead of doing every Wednesday, can they just do a week somewhere? If it has educational merit, that is a possibility. We have had students do that before. But I suppose if they're going to be missing a week of classes, there needs to be some educational merit around it. If that is the case, you simply contact the year head, explain what the opportunity is, and then it's generally facilitated by us. I suppose off the top of my head, with the 3 different placements, I'd always be thinking, with my sort of older hat on, the first thing I'd be looking at would be some type of role in hospitality. That's simply because in the future, let it be next summer or let it be when they're in college, you know, those types of work are readily available very often for young people, and experience is generally required. So if they did an 10-week block of work experience in a cafe or in a restaurant or whatever, they're going to be, or that'll be in a shop, they're going to get valuable experience that they can then use to get a summer job or a job when they're in college. I suppose the key important thing is that you're never, if you or I, I'm speaking to parents at the moment, wanted to decide that we'd like to see what it'd be like to be an architect or a vet or whatever it might be, we'd all have to go through university. We'd have to spend many, many years studying. We'd have to go through the whole interview process, and then maybe we might get invited into an office. Our students don't have to do any of that. They have the opportunity here of tasting or sampling work that is unattainable for the rest of us. And I've had students in the past be absolutely dead sure at the beginning of the year they wanted to be a primary school teacher, they wanted to be you know, any type of role like that. And it was only through the work experience that they suddenly got an epiphany or got a realization, actually, this is so not for me. Thank God I had this experience that I know this isn't. I remember one girl off the top of my head, she was sure she wanted to be a primary school teacher. She pretty much bailed out of the place after the first week, went to her parents, got a placement at a vet's, and then she went on and studied veterinary science in university. That's the sort of awakening that can happen in transition year. So with work experience, it's not to be wasted. I suppose the other thing to think of as well is when certain students are looking for positions in certain areas, generally in primary schools, anywhere where there's children or vulnerable adults, they need to be Garda vetted. Now, the only stickler with this is most of your sons or daughters are going to be starting the year when they're 15 years old. You can't have a criminal record when you're 15. You have to wait till you're 16. So we have to actually wait for your son or daughter to hit 16 before we can Garda vet them. It's frustrating. It's not. There should be a better system to it. But we're going to have. We'll be seeing shortly on our website all the documentation that you'll need to fill out will be on our website. We'll be sharing that with parents at the beginning of the year and students. If there's a position, I know some of the schools look for Garda vetting, some other schools don't look for Garda vetting. So wherever you're thinking, just find out from them, is it necessary or not for them to be Garda vetted? If it is, try and get the material put together as soon as possible. You can send the material to me, and then as soon as your child turns 16, I can then process the application. From experience, this is a frustrating process. Some hearsay very often tells you if someone's going for an actual job, Garda vetting can happen in a day or two. In my experience, it's minimum about 2 weeks to a month that it takes for this stuff to come back properly. So if it's the case you're looking at getting your child Garda vetted through the year, the documentation will be on the website. Try and get that stuff organized towards the beginning of the year. They can come to me if they have any questions or whatever, and I can lead them the right way. But there are a number of different things that need to be done. The forms need to be filled out exactly the way they want them. If they're not, they bounce back straight away. But we'll have all that information up on our website. So that's, I suppose, some of the differences in the year. Now we just move on to some of the practical information. We've dispersing information has, I suppose, been quite challenging in the world that we live in. There was a time where there was a notice board in a school, all the information was up there, students read the notice boards. That's not really how we just, very often the problem now is that as soon as you put something up on a notice board, it's out of date, you need to change it and so on. Students have never, and parents have never had as much access, I suppose, to teachers and to us, which is great. And we're trying to find the best way of disseminating all of the information that you're going to need. So from September onwards, we're looking at having a specific section on the school website called Oíche. And in there, you're going to have a calendar with the events that are coming up on it. The program will be there, a number like the vision, the values and the goals. There'll be information about the portfolio, which is a big part of the year. Every student needs to put together a collection of information on their year, and they at the end of the year then they're going to be doing an interview, which we'll be doing next week with the current TYs. So it's a big part of the year. So all that information will be up there. There'll be a newsletter of any news regarding activities and so on. There'll be information about work experience and volunteering work, and there'll also be, like I said, the documents that you're going to need to Garda vet your son or daughter. So we're hoping that we can have sort of a one-stop shop, that if you're looking for something, instead of having to send emails to me and hope that I respond as quickly as I possibly can, it'll all be up there. In relation to the calendar, the Félire, you know, we'll be filling it up with activities that are coming up each month, or it might be each half term or whatever it'll be. The 4 C's, 4 D's, 4 A's, 4 B's, that'll make sense to your son or daughter because they'll be in one of those groups. But you'll be able to see quite quickly, oh, there's a, you know, my son or my daughter has a trip next week to wherever it might be, rather than you hoping that they'll give you that information sort of voluntarily. It can be, I suppose, at the age they are, it can be quite difficult, I'm sure you know, in getting them to tell you too much about what's going on with anything. So we'll try and have that information available to parents as much as possible. We'll also be using VSware's mail in relation to activities that where, for example, if we're going abroad or things like that. So you're getting a lot of information directly to your inbox as well there. So you don't need to go looking for that.
And just Scoilbhliain, as Kieran said about the classes, and we do try to mix classes completely. But you see there from the trips, like in TY, 4C plus 4D is class 4C and 4D are on the same trip. 4A and 4B are going to Astra Bay and Renmore together. And the Garda talk is 4A, B, C and D together. So we do every effort to make sure that the students are put together in, you know, mixing up the classes, you know, and so there's no reason that they won't see friends that they had or friends that they will have. And even to add to that, once they go into 5th year, and by Easter of TY, we're in the process of doing it with the current TYs, they are choosing their subjects for 5th year. That's 75% of their timetable once they've chosen their Bl.4 over. And then really that decides where who they're going to sit beside for the next 2 years. So this is the starting point of it. So it's really important that we just want to get across. We do separate them, and we do think it's good for them. There's a bit of resilience in it too, but we also make sure that there's ample opportunity for them to meet up and do activities together during the year. Okay, to Rome, Kieran.
Right. Yeah, so I suppose through the year they're going to be doing, we do have assessments, we have regular assessments in classes. In the core class that they're going to have, they will be assessed regularly. In the taster subjects, because they don't get a huge, very often with activities and things like that, they might only, out of the 8 weeks, they might get 6 or whatever it would be. We don't put a huge emphasis on that, but what we wanted them is to capture some of the information from those taster subjects and put that into their portfolio. So they'll be getting regular assessments up to Easter. I suppose with the musical, when that's on, again, because they're probably missing a number of classes with rehearsal and things like that, generally a lot of the assessments will happen after the musical. We just find that it places less stress on students and teachers to do it that way. Otherwise, it's very hard to give an assessment if students haven't been regularly in the class that they're in. But from after the musical until Easter, then regular assessments in those core subjects. And then after Easter, the main assessment, there will still be assessed in some subjects like maths and so on, but we do place an emphasis on the preparation of our portfolio. So again, it's a document where they document their development through the year, what they were involved in, what they learned about themselves and so on, a reflective document basically. And we will then interview them at the end of the year, each and every student, and they can explain to us what sort of year they had, how they feel that they developed, or whatever it might be. There will be a number of the certification that they get through different courses as well, that can stand them in good stead when they're going for that job interview or whatever it might be down the line. We try to make sure as much as possible that we have things like that in the program. Like everything in life, there is a cost to the transition year. The cost at the moment, which we haven't changed in 3 years, is €375 per student. Now, we can't do an awful lot of stuff without paying for it. Buses are expensive to get people to come into the school and give valuable training. We try to get guest speakers in. We have we have a number of things that don't cost the school, or a number of activities that don't cost the school anything like that that's available. If it's got a value to it, we bring it in, but we do have to pay suppliers as well, and every cent of the 375 will be spent on activities for the students. That was an example of some of the ones that we had this year. So again, there will be some activities outside of that, which again, just because of the cost, we don't want to bundle them all into TY, because we appreciate that, like the world is just becoming a more expensive place all the time, but we do try to get absolute value out of that money. A few of the extras that can be in there, things like for the last few years we've been going skiing in Italy. We'll open that up to parents at the beginning of the year, give a number of options. They have in the last few years, they've always gone with that one, but we will be giving cheaper options, more affordable options. But I suppose it's up then for parents and students to talk to each other and agree on what they're happy to go with. There will be other, like as Owen mentioned earlier, we were in Killary there for Monday to Wednesday this week. There was an extra cost to that. It was approximately 280, I think, this year to do that. We managed to get a booking in a Coolidge Ishcup in Belmullet, which is a water sports centre for April of next year. So that's available to us. But again, these things are optional. The skiing, Belmullet. We also have first aid is something that we love all our students to have first aid. But again, there's a there's a cost to it, and we don't feel it's fair to put that on every parent. But we do open that up to parents. If it's something the parents want, we'll make it available to those parents, but possibly not every student we'll do it. And students don't do things for a lot of reasons. It's not always financial cost. It's just it doesn't suit at that time of year. In relation to the assessment at the end of the year, we look at the portfolio and the interview that they do at the end of the year. We look at their results, but we also get feedback from their employers. So like I said, this year is not just about who's got the highest mark in maths or anything like that. We're looking at participation. So we want students to get as involved as possible. The students who really benefit from this year put their oar into everything. Like we have students at the moment who are coming to the end of the year and they've gone from being this quiet, shy kid in third year or whatever to like running their own companies or, getting involved, standing up in front of hundreds of people and talking at events. It can be a transformative year. So we try to put that into the assessment side of it as well. Just in relation to how the communication is going to work in the year, obviously you're going to be looking for information and your sons or daughters will be looking for information. We're available on Teams. All the teachers, all the learners in the GRETB have a Teams account. Your son or daughter can contact the coordinator directly, and they can also contact their teachers directly. So students will be getting their information on Teams, and also the information will be up on the website. If you want to contact us, you can either get them to contact us through Teams, or else you can send an email to me, the coordinator, or one of the teachers through VSware. Again, a lot of the information for the transition year will be available on our website. So if you're looking for a document, an insurance document, or dates of things or whatever, your first port of call really should be the website, because everything will be up there.
Just Scoilbhliain, just to add that we've only added the website section in the last week or so. So we're populating it as we go over the summer. So hopefully by September, it will give you a good idea of what we're doing during the year. Okay.
Yeah, and I suppose we're not going to keep you. Finally, I suppose what you can be thinking of now, there is a program called the Goshka President's Award Scheme. Now, I did that many moons ago, and it's probably the most recognized awards that students or people of the age of your son and daughter can achieve. It's the only award that the president, the Uachtaráin, gives out in the year. And there's 3 different levels. There's bronze.
Back in a second, Kieran. 2 seconds.
Yeah, no problem. There's bronze, there's silver, and there's gold. If your son and daughter is going to complete this, they will go for the bronze. To sign up for it, they go on to goshka.ie. There's a number of different activities that they have to do. They have to do physical recreation, they have to do a personal skill, community involvement, and then there's an adventure segment to it too. The physical recreation, very often, they're already doing. If your son or daughter is involved with a sports club, they play football, hurling, camogie, basketball, rowing, whatever it might be, they're already doing that part. They don't need to add anything new to it. The personal skill is something that we do want them to spend a bit more time. There's not much point in going through the year getting this award, but actually nothing changed. Personally, I remember during COVID, we had a huge participation in this because everyone was just looking for something to do when we're all sitting at home in our houses. An awful lot of students started learning how to cook online. We had cook-off competitions and so on. Things like that. I always think if a student is going to go to college or go and live independently, for them to be able to simply cook maybe 5 or 6 different types of meals, it's a huge life skill, and it'll add to their health and things like that going forward. But it could be playing the guitar. I suppose everyone is a different case. So whatever you're actually thinking, there doesn't necessarily need to be a cost to this. There's so many things available to us. Let it be YouTube videos or whatever for students to develop skills. Mum or dad could teach them how to do something. So long as there's a benefit to the student and they're learning, we'd be quite happy to put it in there. The other one, sorry, Owen, you might go back 1 second. The other thing, like I said, is the community involvement. Again, if they're playing sport in a club, all they need to do is talk to their coach. Say, look, I'm happy to help with the under 12s or whatever on a Saturday. I'll put out the cones, whatever it might be. And the last thing is just, again, like the work experience, that first placement will be starting in August. So they have the whole summer to look, and it's amazing how many doors will open. If they simply go in there, I always tell them go in with your school uniforms. Employers like to see school uniforms. It looks more authentic. But go in, explain to them that, look, I'm looking for a placement. That all the dates will be up shortly, that they'll know exactly how big the block is. But start tapping up businesses in the area that makes sense for them to actually work in. and let them be the first people to get a position in that business, and then just organize it. So just, you know, speak to the business and sort out that first placement. Like I said, there is a cost to it. The way we work this, we realize that, like, I'm building a house at the moment and I've got 2 small children. I know all about the cost of living at the moment, and we want this to be as painless as possible on parents. You don't have to pay the full 375 in one go. You can break it up into different payments. It can be paid over in a period of time, over 3 months, up to 3 months if you wanted to. But we would ask that the first payment could be at when your son or daughter is starting with us at the end of August. Just so, and again, what that means is, for us, it gives us an insurance that we know we can actually run the program. Without the money, we would have to start cutting things out, which we don't want to have to do. We're going to try and make as valuable and as enriching a program as you possibly can for your son and daughter, but we do need to have the funds to do so. Okay, Shinam Gur Shin A. Owen, I think that's...
Yeah, okay, so Chuck Mr. Shaka Oíche and Shin.
Yeah.
So Gramil Maga Kieran done Oíche, and thanks for the information up to now. Just to finish up, I suppose with a new program and a new kind of look at the program, I just want to make sure as principal, I suppose, that what we're doing in TY is that we're asking students to reach high and achieve high in everything. So again, you'll hear more and more about me talking about na local na scoilbhliain, the values of respect, care, and can we tie in care into the civic community so that we can see that they're doing something that, you know, emphasizes the value of care. Can we do something in relation to the community and public? So this is what I'll be trying to, with this new program over the next year and 2 and 3 years, is to make sure that these values are very much tied in. And if they're tied into the program, well, then they're tied into what the students are doing in class. And I really want to emphasize that. I want to make sure that TY students coming into TY, that we're expecting them to achieve high. And achieve high does not mean the highest grade. It means that you try to do everything. That's achieving high. You try something new. That's achieving high. You make new friends. That's achieving high. That you show these values through everything you do. Whatever trip you go on, you are a symbol of the values and show. And we want to bring that into maybe a Cannock, the leadership program, done at Dalty, as the TY Agus Ida Dillaraig. So to Shin on Tovduk. I suppose your role, Mar Hishmore, and I just finished 2 slides ago, and then I have 2 or 3 questions, and we're all done. Attendance is really, really important. Huge correlation, huge link between poor attendance in TY and poor attendance in 5th and 6th year. We are seeing this more and more, and we now have an attendance officer in the school who is looking at this, gathering data, and we want to implement, I suppose, strategies starting in TY, because we have noticed that this is where poor attendance in 5th and 6th year starts. So we don't want that to happen. So Mar Hishmore, I'm asking you that we want full attendance at all times. As I said already, the core classes are happening every day of the week that they are in the building. The second thing, academic progression is very important as they go on to 5th and 6th year. And again, there's a big link between poor attendance and students struggling in 5th and 6th year. So if I can get one thing across the note, done a Hishmore, done a Quavenori, no, to she fear Hovtuk, go will na Dalty Skull. No ifs, no buts, no signing in late, no signing out early. This is where we need your support, that they're in at 8:45 and they leave at 3:25 Gaclaw. That is really, really important, okay? As I say below, the 4 things, do not let them stay at home. Classes are on every day of the week. These are Leaving Cert classes that are part of the Leaving Cert course. The routine is important, that they keep that up, that they have worked so hard up to exams in 3rd year, that she study Godin, to Norbert Denta, go on that clock to Shinaka and Ish, that they keep this good practice going in TY and on to 5th year and 6th year. And the final thing, I suppose, is we have a new program. Okay, we don't have all the answers, but we would love to get your support and your help and your involvement in TY. How could you do that? Well, we do interviews at the end of the year. We would love to get parents in from any background that would help us, you know, with these interviews. If you have a business that's local or part of the school, Could we in some way get your support? Could you be part of a guest speaker or something like that? If there's something you think you can add to this program, you can add to TY, that you can add to the civic and community involvement of the TY program, or any ideas you have, leverage chur na swintishin, put those ideas to us and to Kieran at the end, and I have his email at the end for you. Okay, so the adulty, this is what we expect. So as Kieran was saying here, the students that put the effort in, try everything, they're the ones that get the most out of it. So we're looking for high achievement. I want to say that again. I'm talking about high participation in all programs, okay, in all modules. That they embrace volunteering. This will be part of the civic engagement program that we have to bring into the course this year. Trying new stuff, making new friends. The school musical. School musical is always a very good leveler every year because very few people have been up on that stage. And I take my hat off to an Adalty Scoilbhliain that go up there, and what they do on that stage is just amazing. And it's a start of, for some of them, it's a start of a musical career. For others, it's a confidence building exercise that will stand to them going into any interview. If they can sing and dance in front of 400 parents and school community, they will be able to do a good interview, hopefully in 2 years' time after that. Attendance, I've talked about that. And then assessment. We want to make sure that students aren't coming into TY and thinking, we'll do a year here of no pens, no work. I want to make sure that the students are achieving in all areas, academically, personally, and socially. And that means that they have to try, so we will be putting a big emphasis on that, and success criteria. The students need to meet certain elements of the course and program during the year to be allowed to continue to do other things on the course. So we really want them to know, that you have to aim high and achieve high in course. Okay? So, Shinna made a taller a gum to run for place or Bl.4 Torlu, but if you have ideas or you think you can support us with this program, please refustig Kieran and Shin Kieran.O'Callaghan@jurytb.ie. Okay? Nucor Glaker and Skull, as some my fan and shop fashion, as Caro Midliff. Okay? Just a few questions before I finish up. So, some students one parent has asked here about would there be a particular time for students to take a student out of the program? Maybe they want to send them to Spain. That happens sometimes. Maybe there is an event that they can't miss. To be honest, it's difficult to say at the moment. Generally, by September, we have a fair idea what the program is. As Kieran said, we start with the school musical really quickly, and that is generally the dates are somewhere near the end of November. We then look at a trip, which is generally January, February time, and then we look at Close to Uíche, I think this year we're looking at, and that is, I think, April of the year. But we will have a better calendar up on the school website at the start of the year.
Yeah, just so I might jump in there, just from history, generally, if you're looking at times, January is quite a good, the beginning of January is quite a good time to do that. As Owen said, we do the foreign trips, generally we'd be looking at towards the end of February, beginning of March for that. But I suppose the block before then, so January into February, that they'd be the sort of weeks where if you're going to take them out or look for, and there is a huge benefit. Like if I'm a French teacher, if I could send all my students to France for 4 weeks, I think it'd be hugely beneficial for them to actually see a language being lived and so on. They'll take a huge amount from it if you can afford, obviously, to do so. But I'd be looking at placements because the musical will be running. They'll take up an awful lot of the beginning of the year, but from January to February, I'd probably start looking then. We will be confirming dates, though, I suppose, at a later date as well. I just see as well as worth attending the transitionyearireland.ie. That is now I've been at that event I think 3 times at this stage. Very little benefit, certainly for students. It's generally held on the other over towards is it Kildare or somewhere like that, or it was in the RDS one of the years as well. There are some providers there, but it's the same companies that keep going. Very often they're Dublin based. And quite expensive as well. We were very aware of pretty much all the companies that are offering TY products or TY programs, and we try to find the very best ones for us. But like I said, that is It's not. It's run by a private company. They have a few stands, but there's really nothing there. And like anytime I see a busload of students arrive into it, they're generally bored out of their brains after about half an hour and just walking up to the hot dog stand. There's not a huge benefit in my experience with it in Ireland. And then it's the last one in relation to the interviews. Yeah, they would all be as a Scoilbhliain, Long Gaeilge, we'd be running those in Irish.
But I, in fairness, I just thinking, Kieran, it's a good question there. If I had somebody who can add to a program in some way, we can do interviews bilingually, where you could have myself starting it, Kieran being part of it, and if there's a third person there who has a background that benefits the students and ourselves, I'd be delighted to bring that person on board.
Absolutely.
And because they will go on in life, they're going to do interviews through English and Irish, hopefully. So we want to make sure that they're prepared for everything. So look, Accorda Shin Question and Tall Gwyn Anukt, Gramila Magov done the question and Galer. I see one more. Will the students be attending open days in TY? We generally do the college open days in 5th year, and some in 6th year, but generally they occur in 5th year. And that would be Sharon Showiga, the career guidance teacher, will be organised that. We find that they're a little bit more focused on what they want to see rather than maybe being away for the day. And some would be brilliant, some would have great ideas and they would be very focused, but we just tend to find that we do those days more in 5th year rather than in TY. But that's not to say that a student or a parent cannot go to these open days themselves if they feel they wish to do that. So Accorda, look, to Sulagum, Tashe, Decon Hooked, I'm a bit longer than I planned, and to Bl.4 Shin, to Law Folks, Gadas, Teva Mo. I suppose last thing I just want to leave you with is we want this year to be the chance for students to try new things, the musical, Spanish, work experience. And the students have to, I suppose, again, try and achieve in that they're going to have to put themselves out of their comfort zone and try these new things. We want them to make new friends. Again, they have to put out that hand and make those friendships. And it's really, really important that they do that. We want them to grow and develop. And this is where all these different activities that Kieran has organised over the last 10 years and make this programme happen and make those students grow. And we do see the difference when they go into 5th year. They are ready, Tashid Abbey, they're mature, and you're dealing with adults, I find, in 5th year, and we work together then through 5th and 6th year. And really, what you put in is what you get out. And we see that more and more that some students maybe take the foot off the pedal and they don't get as much out of it. So if there's a message going home, is one, as I said, attendance. Please make sure to got in a skull. But Iverdo is try and support them and try and push them to say, let's get involved, let's try these things, and they will have a great year. So
and sorry, there's just one last question, Shin.
Yeah.
Does the full payment have to be paid for the end of August, or just the first installment? Just the first installment. As I said, thinking much Gama, we understand fully that it's very challenging times for plenty of people. So you can absolutely stagger it. We would ask that like you said, the first installment be paid, but then you could say, right, every month I'll pay off another 125, and you wouldn't notice it as big a cost, obviously, if you did it that way.
So Concurlation, it's a cost neutral program in that whatever we take in, we spend on the TY program. So we will be sending out a link in the next week or so to a way to pay system, which you're fully aware of and how to we use it for the last couple of years. You can make the payment in full, which we would much appreciate. But as Kieran said, we understand the difficulties. So if it means you want to pay that in smaller installments, that is no problem. But we do encourage, and I suppose I'm saying that as the person here who, well, the more we have in the budget, the more we can do. The less we have, the less we can do. And that's how the TY program has to work, unfortunately. So, Accorda, look, I think Neil Inkishnella Fuloher, Kieran, just to make you move away because I go all that's Anoctus Berlin, Agus, well, Gakard Agru, Gakblin, Agus, Imlina Freshen, some of the chocolate there in the Blina. And we'll have our final activity next week with our current TYs, and then we will have a graduation ceremony and barbecue where we will send them off for the summer and get them back then in 5th year. Marangana, we're looking forward to having our 3rd years get them through their exams. Hopefully they'll have a great summer, a safe summer, a happy summer, and then we'll get them back into TY and we get them just exploring, trying new things and having a good year. And that's what we want. If they come out of it happy, well, that's the most important thing. The learning will happen second to that, always. So, nota sin, Tomacun, Slán or Audiv, Gurmila Malgov, Asukta Lena Noct, and Totafit Show, Stephen Scola, agus Monte Ian Kishnet, to Rifus Kieran and Shin, agus just be Dagwalin, agus Mons Fedling, and Monte Ian Swinty, with any ideas, please, Curran Swinty Reich. We'd love to have your support and work together during the year, agus Monte Dulreich. Okay, Gurmila Malgov, agus Slán before.